following podcast is recorded and produced by Emerge, a media creators co-op, in affiliation with the network at bicbb-radio.com.
Hello and welcome back to the Next of Kin podcast. I'm your host, Rich, joined by my son, Christian. How you doing?
What's up?
All right, so today, you're not tired, or are you tired?
I'm always tired.
You're always tired. So we're going to do our quick podcast tonight, talking about the Aksoka trailer and some fan theories that are going on out there.
We're timely too.
And then
like always.
Yeah, we're only 3 days from.
I don't think that. I think that trailer has just been released more recently than the other ones.
Well, this is the first time we had a chance to actually come in and work. So Christian is. You notice him looking off into space. That's because he's always looking at the monitor. But we actually are going to look at the monitor because we're going to watch the trailer and talk about it. So you obviously, for copyright reasons, we won't include the trailer in the video because we'd get sued. So we're just going to kind of watch the trailer.
We just get copyright claimed.
We'll get taken down off of YouTube. So
they won't even do that.
And then we could get blocked. But anyway, and then after that tonight we have to run home and pick up your brother because we're going to see Oppenheimer. So
yep,
I'm sure we'll be talking about that next week. So
yeah, that'll be that and Barbie maybe if we go see that as well.
All right, so let's we're gonna go and talk about. I'm gonna cut to the wide shot here of us, and we're just gonna kind of watch the trailer. All right, and we'll be talking about it obviously as it goes. So let me just bring it back to the beginning, and here we go.
I'm not watching the sound. Rapid trailer.
Someone
just stole this and then uploaded it.
Okay. I don't know who that is. Who's the blonde girl? Do we know?
I love it. So the audience can't see this. You're saying,
right?
Even on the video feed.
Right.
Great.
No, they can't.
This is what an experience.
The guy with the beard just killed somebody. Who's the guy with the beard who just passed away?
Raced. That's horrifically. It's like, oh my god. All right.
And there's Thrawn.
It's Ray Stevenson.
Stevenson.
R.I.P.
And here you got the red lightsaber.
It's not.
She's an
Inquisitor. More orange.
She's
I guess.
Orange. You're right. So Chopper. Hera.
Hera looks the weakest of the main new characters, but she looks fine.
Recreation of scenes from the last episodes of Rebels.
This is an E-wing.
Which we're very excited about.
Yeah. Well, we're not listening to the sound. This part's the most interesting part of the trailer, realistically. Lothal looks good. Lothal live action looks just like Lothal.
Yes. We got the droid that looks like the toy droid from the R2 with the big
we'll get into
eye.
that later.
Yes. Cutting of the hair, which is important.
That's like the same framing as like the Kanan scene.
Right.
He cuts his hair in Rebels.
We got the ghost going into hyperdrive. Double lightsaber.
I don't think the white. You know what's weird? I don't think the
got the painting.
I don't know if the white lightsabers are like very satisfying in live action. Like they're cool, like, but Thrawn, Elon Musk, Elon Musk. Sabine with her force out and a lightsaber. It's a War Between Worlds looking shit.
That's definitely War Between Worlds.
We don't know that necessarily. It could be just a Star Trek or some shit. That's David Tennant. Robot.
Wait, who was the Mandalorian in there?
That's Sabine, I think. Sabine does still have
Yay, the spinning lightsabers from...
which everyone was like, I think that's Ezra. And then Lucasfilm was like, this is the character's name. And then it's not Ezra. It is not Ezra.
All right, so what do you want to talk about specifically about the trailer?
I don't fucking know.
So first of all, I'll say a few things. That a lot of people were kind of getting nervous about Ahsoka for various reasons.
Well, it's Lucasfilm.
Because it's Lucasfilm. So I was trying to be nice. But
you don't
now I'm like, okay, let's go.
Yeah, even the first trailer did not sell me at all.
Right.
Like I was like, oh, this looks interesting. This doesn't look bad. But like there was like it just wasn't.
Turn it off so you stop looking at
I always that's my attention. It's my ADHD.
So, I understand. No, but you're not the only one. Everybody does. I did a podcast yesterday, and I had 4 people on the podcast. And as soon as they checked their video and they knew what they looked like, I turned it off because they were like, "Stop looking at the camera! So you're looking over there." And people are like, "Where are these jerks looking?" So if you're watching podcasts, by the way, and people seem to be not looking, they're probably looking at themselves in a monitor, which is what 80% of people that are guests in podcasts don't know how to stop doing. Back to the trailer. So, I'm super excited about it. I was super excited.
This one got me in, pretty good.
Yep.
Now this one made me excited. And it's Filoni, as the showrunner. He's directed at least 3 or 4 of these, if I remember correctly.
Right.
I don't know who I'm interested to see who the other directors that he's, chosen to, fulfill his vision are.
Right.
I imagine it'll be some of the, similar people from... I don't actually know if that's even announced of which directors we have or not. I probably should have looked at that. But either way, I'm interested to see what the other ones are.
Yeah.
Otherwise, what's I don't know, what's something in the trailer? You just pick something that you find interesting. Well, we have our one thing that we're going to talk about later,
yes.
So we'll avoid that topic for now.
I guess obviously the one thing is that I feel like a lot of this show is going to be Rebels season 5.
Yeah,
in many ways, I feel like this show is going to feel like Rebels season 5.
They keep saying we tried to make this for anybody to jump into and watch. I'm like, well, I think
then why? No. All right, so if that's the case, then
why is every character nearly every character is pre-existing?
Then why in Disney Plus is there a whole category of things you should watch before you watch Ahsoka? And it's a collection of Rebels episodes and Ahsoka episodes from Clone Wars.
Yeah.
Which is fine because let's be honest, everybody. And this is funny. You brought this up, and I didn't even think about
You made
this.
something for the niche fans. The corporations never do that, actually. Right. So, okay, that's fine. You
live
it. You'll see if it makes the money it needs.
But
and gets
you
the
told me this,
so.
and I guess I never put this together. What movie came out at the same time as the last episode of Rebels, roughly?
Last Jedi.
Yes.
Which came out a few months after, I believe.
And I would rather watch that episode, those last 2 episodes of Rebels. Actually,
than any of the original.
I would watch all of Rebels again with no sleep in a row rather than watch
any of the sequel trilogy.
No, I can watch the sequels, not 8. I can't watch 8. I'm never watching 8 again unless I'm captured by terrorists.
I'm about to go off at 8 again for a second.
No.
Here's my thing. People got to realize this because everyone looks dumb when we're talking about the sequel trilogy. Because I'm on Twitter all the time and I see this shit. Every once in a while, someone's because I think John Boyega or something said that of the
he's open to returning.
He said he's open to return, which I don't think it'll even happen at this point.
I think he just was being nice.
Maybe he's open to returning to be a different, better character. I hope that would be what he would be open to returning to. That's what I would do. That'd be the best way to.
Somehow John Boyega came back.
That'd be the best way to just make him better. It's it's John Boyega again. So I guess Finn can't exist.
Yes.
But either way, I'm gonna get my cynical erasure ass out of here.
Okay.
Let's see.
Okay, back to
no.
the
I gotta do my point.
All right.
So I saw somebody that was he was doing Mark Hamill denialism because he can't admit the brilliance of the movie he's in. I'm like, like I said, I hate 8. It's the worst Star Wars movie of the 3, if that makes sense.
It's the worst Star Wars movie of all 9.
Of all 9, yes. It's the least.
All 11.
Yeah, I think there's and again, but it is, I will admit, it's the only movie in the sequels trilogy that tries to do anything interesting. It just fails.
Sure.
And the only way you can find it interesting, and this isn't me to try to be overly condescending, is if you're Again, not the Star Wars movies aren't only for the diehards, I guess, but you can only like what they do with certain core Star Wars aspects in that movie if you don't have a more than a surface level understanding of the movies. Sure. That's just, you haven't watched anything else.
Sure.
You haven't thought too heavily into anything or the lore,
right.
Or you like Star Wars, you watched it, but you really don't quite understand it on the level. Or if you're just dumb.
Well, when it comes down to it,
because they're not good plot. Even if you like the Luke plot and you think it's perfect and you think we're just being cynical because of our own I don't know, nostalgia that's been ruined or whatever.
Right.
Nobody look me in the straight face and tell me that Finn's arc is good. Or that whole part is good.
Right.
Or that Poe's thing isn't a contrived mess.
I hate everything in 8. I don't even think
that. No, but even with all that, 8 is still more of a coherent movie than 9. It just is. 9 is one of the worst movies in cinema.
Sure.
It just is. Like,
but there's at least some.
But it's tried.
9 is okay for me because there's some fun cameos.
People just like 9 because
I
the
like
race
Lando.
stuff that 8 tried to do.
I like Lando. I like the Chewbacca
I hate
arc.
Lando in that movie.
I like the Chewbacca arc.
Does Chewbacca have an arc, or is he just
like
around?
I feel like 'cause, like they kind of
Chewbacca's not bad in that movie.
No,
I
and that's
suppose.
why I can seize on to Chewbacca in that movie.
Okay.
And because I feel like Chewbacca gets like more to do in that movie for a change.
Yeah, I just think that
there's
movie
so
is,
many. I don't want to. We've
that
already
movie,
done
that
this.
movie
like,
also doesn't.
yeah.
Actually, real
I don't
quick,
want to.
that
I want to
movie
get
also
off of
doesn't
this as quick as
understand-
possible.
I know.
I don't
yeah.
want to waste any more time on this
No, I know.
bullshit.
All
Really don't.
right, we can move on. I'm good.
I mean, because we've beat a dead horse on this, and I'm
We
actually
bring it up every
excited.
once in a while.
And here's the next thing. Yeah, we've brought it up, and now let's move on.
Yeah.
So here's the thing I want to bring up, which is funny, which I've talked about that you brought to my attention. There's a New Republic fleet in this movie.
Yeah, which
is
fucking
good.
saw.
Okay, so I feel like there's subtle, like Filoni's like pretending that 8 and 9 and 7 just don't even kind of exist.
I think Filoni. Unfortunately, I don't subscribe.
I'm not saying he's retconning it. He's just ignoring the movies.
I don't even know if Filoni does that because I think Filoni is like. Unfortunately, I like Filoni, but I think he's like corporately whipped.
Sure.
If that makes sense. I think he holds very little like sway at all. And like I think if he can try to get away with stuff, maybe he does. I think
he
that's
definitely
the first
got
year.
away
But
with
I
a
also think he
shitload
plays
with-
pretty
yeah.
like I think he plays like for the team. Like I think he plays for Kathleen Kennedy pretty well.
Because
I don't think he would have had like the power he has.
I
still,
think
if
he
that was the
understands
case.
that if he goes too far into the weeds and starts saying that
He might be just biding his
I'm
time,
slowly reconning the universe, like that they would fire his ass or they would severely watch him. And I feel like Rebels they had no idea what Rebels was. I don't even think they even realized what Clone Wars was.
Clone Wars Clone Wars was Cartoon Network, and it was Lucas was still attached, and I think when they did the final season, which obviously was still Disney, like I think they realized what it was, and they were just letting them finish, and it was also because they needed goodwill back.
Yeah.
Like, let's be fucking real.
But they went to Filoni and they're like, "We need little kids, so go make a show for kids." And
let's
he's
go back
like,
to the trailer.
Sure. So, but the reason why I bring this all up is that there's a lot of things in the trailer that make a lot of sense in conjunction with what happened in Rebels. Yeah. So I'm excited for that stuff. So obviously we've seen, Sabine, and we've seen Chopper, and we've seen Hera, and we've seen the little video image of Ezra
Bridger,
Bridger.
but that's not a modern Ezra though.
So here's my thing. A couple things that I noticed in the trailer. I'm just throwing that out. I love the fact that the painting looks the same.
Well, that's like a good bit. Well, the Star Wars art style is not meant to be like this is how it looked, and like the Star Wars art style is more interpretive. Like this is like an idea of what,
but
like,
the painting looks like it's the painting of the show.
Yeah, it's a good way to link.
It's the same animation style, the way the painting within a cartoon
just made it Sabine's
looked.
art looks like.
Yeah,
that,
Sabine's art is the style. Like she basically draws in the style of the cartoon she was in.
At least, for that photo, that's what
which is really cool.
Well, that's a cool way to link it, yeah.
And I think
we've seen that clip for a while. That the shot's been out for a decent amount of time.
So you talked about this. I feel a lot of what we're seeing in the trailer is going to be very early within this show.
I would imagine most.
The
maybe
first
besides,
episode,
like, the Thrawn
possibly.
Because I don't know how early like Thrawn will like rear his head.
Yeah, maybe Thrawn's from the second episode.
I think
feel
Thrawn's from I think Thrawn might be from like the later episodes, but I think like most of this because they were doing a 2-episode premiere, which they also announced in this trailer. So I think I wouldn't be surprised if a significant portion of it is from the 2-episode premiere,
right?
And then like maybe you'll get like a decent amount of the vast majority of the rest of the clips will be from like 3 and 4,
right.
And then there might be like a couple peppered like because I don't think anything on Lothal that we saw is not late in the season,
right?
Like it's not.
No, they're not going to be on Lothal for the entire show.
Or even like anything with the New Republic fleet, like that all looks like, or even like most of what we seemingly have seen with what's it called, the United Inquisitors, like the dark Jedi looking guys with the orange lightsabers, like Balin and I forget the other one's name. Like that looks rather early on too, if I can remember correctly. Like there's also I don't know where the Inquisitor stuff is, where the guy that looks like he has like the Inquisitor lightsaber.
Right.
I don't know when that is, and I don't even know like what like what that character's like alignment is necessarily.
Well, what's great about this trailer is it's pretty vague. And it's not giving too much away.
Mm-hmm.
Like even like the E-wing fighter.
Yeah, we don't know who's flying.
We don't know who's flying it. Yeah. So part of me feels like I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see kind of a putting back of the band together kind of thing, and we get
yeah, I think because Mando we almost never get like for instance like I don't think there was a single shot from like either of the last 2 episodes of Mando in like basically any trailer they've ever had for any of the seasons. So I think they'll do the same thing with this.
Yeah.
Where most of the footage is from early.
What have you seen in the trailer that you think is first of all, the action looks good. I think we're gonna get some really good action. She nails Rosa Dario play.
Yeah, she does a pretty decent job.
She nails the character.
They actually changed the delivery on the one line, which again I don't even know if that line will be in the show or not. The Heir to the Empire line, like I don't know, because again that's obviously calling to like the series. Obviously, like, this is kind of taking inspiration from. It's like they're doing like a fusion. Dave Filoni is very interesting because he has to incorporate like aspects of like a 30-year-old like Legends storyline that's very popular. Like from a trilogy of novels, and then also combined in his what he did with Thrawn, and like so it's Rebels season like 5. So he's kind of fusing 2 different ideas that have one that's existed for a long time, and one that like mixes, which is his own.
So like
and like kind of characters will maybe fitting into like roles that other characters maybe had.
Well, there's the epilogue or whatever it's called in Rebels,
which that's going to be overridden basically.
Yeah. But I feel like a lot of it's not being the only thing because we don't know. There's lots of references.
I didn't mean that last shot that we see Sabine and like Ahsoka. I think that moment has been rewritten, if that makes sense. Like I think there's going to be multiple times they try to go out and find Ezra.
Right. And I don't know if that's the whole arc of the show. Yeah. I think that's
I don't know when actually there's that one scene where Chopper's in like the Phantom 2, which is like the weird separatist ship that they have like off the Ghost. I guess we don't know when that is. I guess that could be early on. That could be when we're being like introduced to Hera.
Yeah, like I feel like that could be like we're seeing like a side mission with Hera, which leads to her lining back.
But Hera's also like if she's and Hera was a general at the start of the Galactic Civil War,
right?
So like God knows what she is like now. Like I'm pretty sure General was rather high up as like in the rebellion anyway.
Right.
So like she's probably still like I think she's probably like in command of either the cruiser she's on, like when like that with that because we see like Ahsoka's ship land there.
How much do you think?
And
of
she
what
might
we're
even
seeing,
she might even be charged of that fleet. Like,
do you think any of what we're seeing in the trailers is just flashback? Obviously, besides
I don't think I've seen anything in the trailers that would be flashback.
Because maybe the Inquisitor's flashback.
But I thought I saw like maybe I saw this wrong, but I thought I saw in the trailer that like there's the one planet which has like docks and shit. It looks like where she's fighting like the Inquisitor on.
Right.
And but I thought there was also one of. There seemed to be, like, in this trailer, though, we saw there was, like, a droid that she destroys on that same planet.
Right.
And that droid looks like one of Elsbeth's, because, like, Morgan Elsbeth from the one, like, Mando episode.
Right.
Which, again, I think when they're slaughtering all those people at the beginning of all the rebels on that one ship, I think that's probably just a ship that has Morgan Elsbeth on it. Okay. If I'm being honest, and then they're just getting her out, because they want to find Thrawn too, and so that's like and Morgan Elsbeth is probably like a night sister.
Is the bridge is from Lothal, right? There's like a big long bridge that they're on. In the trailer, like there's a person on a speeder on a bridge. Is that the bridge?
Oh, the highway, you mean?
The highway.
It's like the long ass highway.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's Lothal. That's Lothal. Yeah. And that looks exactly like how it looked in the animation. Big flat ass area, city in the distance.
Right.
Goes to nowhere. So.
Some things that we know, like okay, what else? Well, clearly there's like some aspects of her in some shots where she's got the white robes on.
I don't think I don't think we have any live action of her with white robes.
The first shot, you've changed her hair or something. Is what she wearing in that shot?
Great.
That's the gray?
Yeah. Okay. Weirdly enough, I think it's being retconned, so the moment that she becomes, like, whatever, Ahsoka the White or whatever, because Filoni's even said himself that it's like a Gandalf, like, inspiration thing, which take what you want from that.
Okay.
But yeah, I don't know. Because I think we've only seen her in the gray garb, like, which I think she has on too much, if I'm being honest. But, like,
right.
But so I think, like, by the end of the first season, it might be, this season is maybe the shift. to like I think like that what we saw there is more meant to be like an idea of what Ahsoka would ascend to. Like if he was allowed to finish the story, maybe it wasn't at that moment or already here when she was like her and Sabine were going to get out, but maybe on that journey she would.
Yep. So the sounds of my phone. Sorry.
You're good. Where were we? What else can we talk about? Let's see. What else is interesting?
Well, I mean,
Mon Mothma's in it, probably for one scene
with the same outfit.
Probably.
I bet you she's wearing a white dress.
She's the Chancellor now, which would be interesting. I want to see what like she acts like as the whatever, like the Chancellor or whatever the hell they call it for the New Republic, which I think is what she is at this point.
And they have to age her up a little bit.
I doubt it. It doesn't really. Nobody cares.
I mean, it's a few years.
I don't know. Who fucking cares? Who fucking? It's like.
Yeah, it's not that many years. Never mind. It's not as many years as I was thinking about.
It's like 15.
Isn't even 15 from what we see.
Andor's like 5 before the Galactic Civil War. We're about 10 years after the Galactic Civil War at this point.
Is that many? Okay.
I think it might even be longer than that because, like, again, I think they've honestly. I think with the Mandoverse, they've went. Again, we don't even know the fucking timeline of the Mandoverse because Favreau doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about half the time. So he just puts out random like quotes into the universe.
I don't listen to anything Favreau says.
Because like if you listen, because at
I
some
think
point
he just doesn't know. He doesn't really know details.
Because like if you're meant to believe at some point that like, because again the Mandalorian when it starts is supposed to be 5 years after Return of the Jedi.
Right.
And then like supposedly they've gone. It's been 4. In the 3 seasons since,
right?
And I'm like, no, it hasn't. It's like that's dumb as fuck.
The only reason 4 years would make a lot of sense.
Stop bringing us closer to the sequels. Because like, it goes slower.
Because Tatooine Episode 2, Tatooine. What's the planet Mando and Carl Weathers are from? What's that planet? Because it's Tatooine 2. It's basically whatever it is. Because it's
Navarro.
Navarro. We go to Navarro a lot, and Navarro gets like cleaned up pretty quickly if it's not more than a couple years.
I know it has. I'm sure it's a couple years, but like like they haven't told enough story.
Economic
they
development
haven't told enough
doesn't work
story over the course of because again that time period is just Mandalorian and then like a half season of Boba Fett.
Yeah, I agree. No, I don't
like,
disagree.
There's not enough story there to be like, yeah, this was 4 years of Star Wars lore. It's like the Galactic Civil War lasted 3. Right. And they're like, all right, we got 12 episodes here that took place during this time period. I think that fills you in pretty good.
Well, that reminds me of something funny that's got nothing to do with this podcast. Did you ever hear of the show MASH?
I don't. Do we have to talk about MASH?
I'm going to say it real quick. So MASH is on for like 12 years.
Sure.
Right? It's on forever.
The Monster MASH.
And it takes place.
Graveyard Smash.
It takes place. You're a history guy.
Sure.
You like history. How long was the Korean War?
Like a decade.
Not even.
I know.
How long did we have people in Korea? Like 4 years.
Yeah.
So
like 4
it's
years,
funny
yeah.
because
years, yeah.
I don't even think like there were MASH units in Korea for more than like 2.5 years, 3 years. I looked this up long time ago. So, but the show's on for 12 years. Sure. So, like, how did we have a MASH unit, like a show, like it takes 12 years to live in this MASH unit. But it was like, it's like
112. It's like you have more episodes than that.
Yeah.
Which again, 100. I don't know what kind of fucking summer. I don't know what kind of fucking summer they got.
Yeah, I want to move to that state.
3.5 months of fucking.
Yeah, 3 months of the 100 days of summer or whatever. So
yeah,
I guess they're counting weekends. I don't know. So twice. All right. So anything else in the trailer before we get into this topic that we want to discuss?
I'm trying to think. We only get one shot of Chopper, which makes me nervous.
He's not going to die.
No, I mean, I want him to be in it more. But I don't know if Hera's on the main. But I don't know. Like, there's a bunch of shots.
The little kid too. The boy is there. The child.
We haven't seen the child, but we know the child's in it because I saw a Lego leak.
Yeah, because
so Tara's daughter with like the one character from Rebels is like, not daughter, son. Which is he just looks human, which doesn't make sense.
No
but
green
whatever.
hair. What did the Lego have?
Well, I think they'll just retcon that into Auntie Sabine, dyed his hair once. Yeah.
Or dyed it to another color. So.
I'm trying to think of other shit because the beginning is just the guys slaughtering everyone, which is good. Balin looks good.
Yeah.
I think Shin, that's the other one's name, I think.
Right.
And she looks good as well. She seems to be like a foil to Sabine, while Balin's gonna be a foil to
right.
You know.
And what's her face from the Ahsoka episodes back? The woman
Elsbeth,
from
Elsbeth, yeah.
Yeah, so she's back. So
So they've like because there's like 4 villains out of 5 if you count Thrawn. There's like the Inquisitor guy that has a name that is released, but I don't know. Right. Thrawn, Elsbeth, and then the 2 orange saber wielding people.
And we haven't even seen in the trailer Thrawn's like bodyguard person, which is the guy from Expanse.
Oh yeah, I forgot that guy was
I can't think.
That guy was casted as something. Yeah. You're right. I forgot about that.
What's not Alex? He's I always forget his name.
Amos.
Amos, the actor plays Amos, and I think he's in like almost every episode.
Really?
Yeah. He's in a lot, so I think we're going to see Thrawn quicker than people expect.
What's his name? What's
the actor?
What's he playing?
We don't have a character name for him yet, but it was told that he was in. He's in.
Is he the Inquisitor? No, he's not the Inquisitor.
No,
I don't think he's the Inquisitor.
I mean, he might be in like prosthetic or something. We don't know, but
yeah, interesting.
So
I like that actor. I like that character.
No, I mean Wes Chapman. I'm sorry, I always forget his name.
Wes Chapman, yeah.
Yeah, so he's supposed to be in this, like.
And again, we haven't seen like from like the Mando season.
Oh,
3.
he's Captain Enoch in Ahsoka. Enoch.
Oh, I think you know what? I think he might be Captain Enoch. Wait, let me see one sec. Let me look something up.
Okay.
You can talk about something interesting. I don't know. There's 2 Anakin mentions.
There is 2 Anakin mentions, and I definitely think we're going to get some type of flashback with Anakin. There's no doubt in my mind. I'm really hoping it's. I almost hope that it's 2 different ones. I'm hoping that it's one where he calls her Snips. There's got to be that. There's got to be some type of flashback, which I think is going to be like, like from that's Clone Wars era, which I don't know how they'll do with the actress because obviously she's like they'll have to age her down.
Well, Baylan, the one character, seemingly has met Anakin from like
yes,
and I think we have confirmation that he's a former Jedi who survived Order 66. Some people are annoyed by the amount of Jedi that have survived Order 66. Yes. No, that's fine.
There's not that many.
Like the Palps he viewed them as like threats, but like he wasn't that like
not if there were
picky.
6 of them spread out all
exactly.
over the
Like his point was the majority, the leadership, like
yeah.
And if a couple Padawans
and they were in hiding because
yeah.
the universe kind of looked at them as traitors. So it wasn't like they were.
And they
like,
get a significant
around.
amount of them, like
right.
well before, like by the time like the Galactic Civil War's around, like even
right.
like the 2 of the more like prevalent one, because we learned that like a couple of Jedi at least fought on the side of the rebellion, like before
right.
even Luke got there, like Ezra and Kanan were around, but both of them are gone by like the time the Death Star shows up.
I do love that in the last episode of Rebels when they do the epilogue and they mention that Captain Rex fought on the Battle of Endor. And in the previous episode, he's wearing the stupid Forest Moon of Endor hat that he wore before he put on the stormtrooper costume. And it's amazing to me how many people are stupid about that. Like
what?
Why is Captain Rex dressed as a stormtrooper in the movie? I'm like, did you watch on Return of the Jedi? Like you see him literally when
it's
they
so
take
good
over.
Too, because like that,
you see him
that guy
start putting on the
change.
uniform.
Yeah.
Like that's why. Like I know it's not canon in 1984.
He was gonna sit by. He was pretending to like, which was funny because that's what Rex does all the time in Rebels
right.
too. Like he switches into the stormtrooper gear and
I
shits on it.
think that was Filoni just having fun with his fans because he loves Star Wars like we do.
Yeah.
Like I think that's what that was, and then obviously all along he was gonna confirm that Rex fought on the Battle of Endor, and that proved like fan fiction canon for us, which we all love.
I got you.
Did you find it or no?
Sorry, I'm looking for something.
All right, so while you're looking that up, I'm going to talk about what we're going to talk about now. We only got another 15, 20 minutes. So what we want to talk a little bit about is there's a fan theory that Sabine is Force sensitive. I'm not going to say Jedi because not everybody who's Force sensitive becomes a Jedi.
Yeah.
So I'm going with the concept, the question that
that was the big question set up by the trailer.
Is Sabine a Jedi? Going to become a Jedi, trained to be a Jedi?
Okay,
is she Force sensitive?
Well, I mean, Ahsoka's not a Jedi.
Right. So Force sensitive, not a Jedi, because obviously even even because even obviously Ahsoka's not a Jedi anymore.
Yeah, so it'd be weird if like Ahsoka's. I mean, again, Ahsoka is like. It's still a light side. Like, she's not a gray Jedi with whatever that, which is like, oh, she uses both. Like, Ahsoka doesn't use the dark side, very clearly. Right. Like, she doesn't restrict herself to, like, justice in the ways that, and, like, the moral in the ways that the Jedi Order
She has
would.
her own code.
Yeah, she has her own code that's a bit separate. That,
it's
like,
not Jedi code. It's parallel to Jedi.
It's less restricted.
Yes.
It's less...
Because she sees what it did to her and everyone she knows.
Yeah, it's like a Civil War type thing, if you want to talk about it. Like, it's similar. It's kind of like that.
So I'm going to say right off the bat that we're not necessarily saying that we agree with this theory, but I want to examine this theory because, and I asked you to do it with me, so if there's any hate out there for this, you can blame me. But this was something that I thought, so I said we really should go back and watch a bunch of shit and see what kinds of, like, breadcrumbs that could have been left for us to interpret. Now, let me finish the premise. There are things that they do in shows that don't always mean that they had a dry erase board where they had planned this for years. But there are things that come up that make it seem more obvious. So we're going to get into the specifics, but I'm going to bring up an example. Like, I don't know when they were making Empire Strikes Back if they had already decided that Leia was going to have the Force. But obviously, there's a moment in there that we'll talk about, and then there's obviously another moment in Jedi where clearly they established that Leia is Force sensitive.
Empire that when Yoda says that there is another that they don't think that you don't think Lucas was talking about Leia?
Yeah, I think they knew they were talking about Leia.
Okay, so then all right,
but I don't think they thought about can I do my joke now?
Sure.
So here's my thing. End of Empire Strikes Back. Luke's got his ass kicked.
Yeah.
And he's hanging on the bottom of, Bespin.
Sure. Yeah.
Or the Cloud City bullshit. And he's laying there and he's like, Obi-Wan. And Obi-Wan says, sorry, Obi-Wan can't come to the phone right now. He can't help you. Obi-Wan is out at the store. He can. I told you I wouldn't be able to interfere. You're on your fucking own. So don't bother me. Yeah. So then he changes his mind and he reaches out and he says, Leia. And then Leia, hear me, Leia. And then we cut to a shot of Leia on the Millennium Falcon.
She's got her AirPods.
And she's got in her iPods. And she's like, we have to go back. I'm like, what? And then they go back to save her.
But what if she had her AirPods in and she had to call?
Well, because it's in your head. So,
yeah.
She would have thought they needed to be charged. So clearly you could argue that is a moment where she starts to the Force inside of her starts to awake, because clearly she's been Force sensitive all her life, but for whatever reason she never noticed it.
Sure.
Or maybe it just doesn't come out until you're like Luke didn't come out till he's like 17 or 18, theoretically.
I mean, Luke. I mean, Ezra is like a Jedi for like fucking 4 years.
Right.
Before Luke even, and look at Ezra's younger than fucking Luke.
Right.
Older than.
Right.
He's older than Luke by like a couple days.
So
Ezra's like technically like a pretty powerful, like reasonably, like very competent like Force user.
Right.
And Luke doesn't even like fucking know what a lightsaber is till he's older than that.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Well, and that's why I find it pretty funny that
you don't even have any feats. Like even in Obi-Wan, they didn't have Luke like, ooh, I'm forcing my toy around to make it fly.
Right.
Like they didn't do that.
Right.
Like they didn't even know. Like he had no fucking clue.
No,
like,
he's too busy, farming the moisture. And
farming,
my point is,
the water out of the sand.
So my funny thing is they're humidifiers. They're dehumidifiers.
Yeah.
They're basically dehumidifiers. So anyway, like how come he didn't call Chewie? I thought would it be like, Chewie, hear me. What do you mean, Chewie? We gotta go back. Or R2. He can't call R2. Or Lando, who we didn't even meet yet.
He doesn't. Lando Calrissian.
Lando, hi Lando. My name's Luke, and I'm hanging on the bottom of your city, you motherfucker.
You
betrayed us. You friggin' whatever. So, but you could say, well, okay. So now let's get into this argument. You said you wanted your premise or whatever. Go ahead.
Well, okay, so there's two, like...
Throw me something over there.
What do you want?
I don't know, whatever. Oh, the worst candy in the whole bowl.
Some Reese's.
Reese's.
Hershey's
I'm like E.T.
People from, like Europe apparently eat Hershey's, and they think it tastes like puke because of the chemicals that we use in it. Because that aren't allowed in Europe.
This is true. All right,
We're just eating candy now.
This is the candy.
This is a great podcast.
Yeah, we're going to the movies, so I'm just prepping for the movies.
Well, all right. So there are two lines of thought, I guess.
Yes.
Because Sabine looks to be the secondary protagonist of the show. If it looks like it, like probably the second most like central character to this. Given the amount of screen time, given that like one of the bigger reveals and like moments to talk about in this trailer has to do with her, and that's this idea that okay, she's obviously being trained. I mean, some people have been dumb enough to be like, at one point in the trailer, let me just get my actual thought out. I don't know why I can't. At some point in the trailer, like Sabine is like doing like a little talking about actually Ahsoka's talking to like Hera like on the video call or whatever. Right. About like Sabine being stubborn, and then like she like walked away from like her master and so Anakin never completed her training, and then she says something weird. She's like, just like I walked away from Sabine, and you're like, okay, that's a weird comparison, but okay. And then like you cut to Sabine talking, and at the end of like whatever sentence she's saying, she like puts like the moniker like master like on there, which is obviously like in Star Wars like master is very much like that's a Force term. Like both Jedi and Sith like use that terminology particularly. So and I don't know if Ahsoka it seems weirdly formal for someone like Ahsoka as well. So so some people have like put it out there that maybe she's like mocking her or something, which I think is like that's horrible. Kind of that's a lame bait and switch given the amount of emphasis they put on the moment in the trailer.
Right.
Like you can do that. Trailers can lie to their audience all the time, and they do occasionally. Right. But it's a weird moment to try to bait your audience on.
Right. All right, so...
But then I get to the actual visual evidence, though. So it's like, so Ahsoka has trained Sabine at some level.
At some level of fighting skills.
And then left her for whatever reason.
We do not know that if she's being trained with anything that's Force-related, yet a lot of it is more, it sounds like, fighting with a lightsaber. Defending herself.
Though, but there's nothing that indicates what this type of training is at all.
Oh, that's a good point.
We have there's not any dialogue or any imagery that would say whether or not that like what Ahsoka was trying to train her in. Like we have two shots from like a couple different trailers of Sabine with a lightsaber.
Right.
Which has a different handle than Ezra's, but realistically is just Ezra's lightsaber that she's modified to her own liking.
Right.
A little shitty, but whatever. He's like
jerk.
Jerk.
What'd you do to my lightsaber?
But also like
Was Zeb do this too?
Mm-hmm. Which is interesting because like I didn't even like see that as a possibility. Oh, Ahsoka could have an apprentice. Like that was never like a thought in my mind, and especially because of how skeptical Ahsoka like is towards the whole the Jedi thing. So the idea that Ahsoka would teach is like a bit foreign and a bit like and very new.
Well, obviously, Sabine...
those characters have had very little interaction as well.
Right.
Like in Rebels, like they've been in the same shot in like episode together, but I can't think of a line of dialogue between them. Like in Rebels.
They set it up in the trailer in the epilogue that Ahsoka.
Yes, in the epilogue they pair those two characters.
We have to find out what happened from that moment on.
Mm-hmm. Which again, even in that
epilogue,
there's no indication that.
So we see Sabine cut her hair both in the epilogue and on the thing, right? She's got the shorter hair in the trailer.
Yeah.
We don't see her cut her hair. We do see her go up
we
to
see
the
her
artwork.
We see her cut her hair in the trailer.
And we see her go up to the artwork, which is very much shot for shot what it's like in the trailer. Yes. So there's a lot of things that clearly they want us to recognize her from the last episode of Rebels. So back to Rebels, though, I think if we're going to determine whether Sabine is Force sensitive, we have to look at some of the things from Rebels that we looked at.
Yes, all right. So the idea is Sabine latent Force sensitive that somehow Kanan and Ezra never picked up on, and unless the thing that Ezra's like, that whole weird cryptic thing that Ezra starts talking about in the finale, where he's like, I know I can always count on you type shit, and then like he tells Sabine to remember, and he's counting on her and stuff like that. So I guess you could construe that into like Ezra figured it out, like right at the end, that Sabine was also like Force sensitive. Which, and again, a lot of people point out like, why wouldn't Kanan and Ezra be able to know? And I'm like, well, so that I counter with like, it's not like weird. It's not unprecedented for Star Wars lore for like a person to figure it out late. Like in terms of Legends, characters of all different ages have figured out they were force sensitive at different points. And even in terms of just like main characters,
Luke and
we already
Leia
said to Luke,
are late.
like Luke would be
Luke
about
and Leia.
Like if Sabine figures out like
Leia's even later
like
than
say
Luke.
Sabine figured out like right after,
And Luke's later than like. Whatever.
Sure. That Sabine's like, I guess she figures out later than like Luke, because I guess Sabine is.
But not later than Leia.
I guess Sabine's technically like a year older than Luke, but like Leia figures out like she's like 24.
Yeah.
And also like Luke's with her the entire time, and like even after Luke does the whole like force call, which I don't know if like I guess some people subscribe to the idea that like Leia's only able to receive like Luke's message because she's also force sensitive, but like Luke doesn't connect the dots there for like another fucking year until Ben tells him to his face.
Right.
And like also like Vader, like you do realize that Vader's been in like the room with Leia.
Yeah,
like
and
on various occasions, he didn't sense shit.
And you could argue, well, the dark side clouds his vision.
And honestly, like in terms of like, there's an idea that your emotions and your own turmoil can like limit and like suppress your access to, like that was Grogu, was it not? Like the Grogu knew how to use, like Grogu, like Ahsoka said it, like I'm not teaching Grogu anything right now, like he's just relearning it. It's just trauma and like what he's been through that is like have it hidden.
Here's the other thing that I want to mention.
It wouldn't maybe show itself at all, like especially because Sabine has like a significant amount of turmoil. And you can also say that if you can construe, given what Ezra's story ended up being, Ezra and Kanan's story, that the moment where they like call out to each other in the very first episode of Rebels isn't just like two people that are force sensitive sensing each other. That's the force literally like giving you a tap on the shoulder to each other, like this is destiny type, because that is Star Wars. Star Wars has that shit embedded into it.
Sure. And you could argue that in Empire Strikes Back, when he calls Leia, that is the beginning of that communication. Yeah. And then she doesn't really exhibit anything else that's forcey until she says,
well, she gets
I know that he's alive. He didn't die there. I can feel it.
Yeah.
Like, that's the first time you really obviously
she embraces
it. So here's my thing.
You kind of have to accept it about yourself, too.
Yeah, but here's my point. Like, not every person who has force abilities is equal. Mm-hmm. And that's why, like, nobody's saying Sabine's going to be the greatest Jedi of all time and she's the chosen one. All we're saying is that she has some midichlorians. So it's not off the chart.
Wants to like step
like
up
Anakin.
I feel like because people don't realize they lose like that group of like rebels like from the main series. They lose because again they're trying to free Lothal, and like that's what the entire most of the last season's about. Right. And they lose both of the Jedi during that effort.
Right.
And like Kanan and Ezra's Kanan's death and Ezra's disappearance are not far apart.
No,
they are like a week, maybe.
Yeah,
like apart from each other.
I'm not even sure if it's that many.
It's like a week or two. Like,
I'm not even sure it's that long.
No, because not Sabine. Like Hera does leave planet and go pick up people and stuff like that. So it might be like a week. Like if I'm thinking, but so it's not a long turnaround though. Right. So like maybe in Sabine's mind, she's like, I have to like step up in some level. Right. But again, so there's also the idea that Sabine maybe is just getting like saber trained, which is interesting as well. And if maybe she's trying to like absorb like teachings of the Jedi without like having it, which could be interesting in and of itself. But I think there's like almost less to explore with that in a weird way.
All right, so here are some reasons why.
Also, she's fucking Mandalorian.
Right.
Like, I feel like
go through
figuring they were force sensitive.
Yeah, go through her Mandalorian lore because she's related in a sense to the clan.
We can go through
that really quick.
What's in the back.
Yeah, we'll do that one first, and then
we'll do Rebels stuff. Okay. Yeah. So, all right. So again, this is. Again, I don't know if this is even like for totally accurate, so forgive me if like nobody will know because I'm probably deeper in than anyone
and we got
like
10
listening.
Minutes.
So we learn about the first like Mandalorian Jedi like in Rebels, which in a really weird sequence where like there's like shadows on the wall and shit, and like the one Mandalorian character like Fen Rao was like talking about it, and he explains like the first Mandalorian Jedi is like Tar Vizsla or whatever, and he crafted the dark saber, which is the saber that Sabine is trained to wield basically after she finds it by Kanan. So Sabine does have weirdly enough like the only bit of like stuff that would like pertain to like her being a Jedi or like whatever the fuck she is now is that she does know how to wield a lightsaber because she's been trained like that. In the form specifically as well that the Jedi are trained in.
But back to the Sabine with the dark saber.
But back to okay, so this is idea that again, this is thousands of years ago. Like this is literally 1,000 years before like the story. But like that Sabine's is Clan Wren. But that's within House Vizsla, which the first Mandalorian Jedi is a Vizsla. So, like, not that the Force always works in, like, a bloodline type of way, because it doesn't. Like, it's very specific, like, to the Skywalkers in a weird way. Right. Because a lot of times you'll just have non-Force-sensitive kids if you're a Force-sensitive. But, like, but you know what I mean. So there could be an idea that lineage has like at least some dormant force, like maybe every so often somebody from that lineage.
Because we don't have a lot of time, so that's a good point. Yeah. So now here's my point. So go to the episode from Rebels.
Points, I think.
But go to Rebels. One of the episodes of Rebels, she gets the dark saber, and I thought it was nothing, but then you went and watched that episode, and this is the one where like. They go
it's
into
like Trials of the Darksaber, I think it's called.
Was it Trials of the Darksaber?
Season 3, I
believe. And you know,
it's like her training episode.
The training episode, and then this is the one where Ezra goes off with Maul, and they're trying to like get some stuff. What? And this is the one because remember they released the spirits.
Okay, I know what you're talking about.
They released the spirits. The spirits take over. But the point is, in that episode, Ezra takes Kanan out, and she's about to leave, but then she stops, she turns, and she walks all the way over and grabs the Darksaber. Why did she even pick it up and take it with her?
Yeah, to be fair, like it's weird that she just stumbles. The way that they animated it,
it wasn't like next to her.
Awkward the way she discovers the Darksaber. Again, she gets rid of it almost immediately. She gives it to Kanan to take.
Right.
But she does like seemingly wander over to it for no reason. Otherwise, the next time she's like with it is the Trials of the Darksaber episode.
Well, she decides to train with it.
Yeah.
So the training episode, one of the lines is...
she's pretty good with it, but again, you can't, like... again, a lot of the Darksaber lore isn't, like, fully established at this point. Right. Like, the weight thing, like, she says it's heavier, and it gets lighter for her. Like, so, which is a thing that they bring back.
And it never gets lighter for Mandalorian.
No, Din never, like, is able to, like, do anything with it, basically.
And I would argue he knows how to fight.
And
I would argue he knows how to fight. He's got 8,000 weapons.
Yeah, and
he can fight with everything.
Yeah, and I don't know if we're supposed to.
I don't think his training is any worse
or more turmoil than Sabine.
If they're both trained within the same realm of relative abilities, then why is it so heavy for him, where it's not heavy for her when she gets comfortable with it? And eventually, when she starts to kind of channel a little bit of anger, she beats she really does a job on Kanan as she gets angry.
Yeah,
she starts admitting how she kind of like
putting in like, which again, it could just be like acceptance, but again, maybe that's just the saber's getting easier for her to use because like she's accepting things and like channeling her emotions or something of that sort. So you could argue that. Again, I think like you could also argue that like Kanan would have caught on there maybe. But again, Kanan also says there's a lot in that episode actually. Right. Like one thing specifically is that I should have brought the notes I read, but there was a specific thing that he says to Hera, because Hera says like, why is you training saber? You never gave Ezra like a training saber, which is literally just like a wood stick that they're like doing the forms with. Right. And she says like, is it because she's not like force sensitive? And then like Kanan says no, like all beings like have some like force or whatever. Because I think everyone has midichlorians, if I remember correctly. It's just you have to have enough. Right. Again, we're getting down the weeds, but then she's like, you have to be open to it though. Right. And I don't think there was very much of a point.
And she doesn't really become open to it. Possibly, you could argue because of the turmoil of her family and everything.
Which
that
only gets resolved
creating
in the
the weapon
of season 4,
and all, having the run from her family. So when all that shit's kind of out of her system,
and then just being Mandalorian in general, which Mandalorian are like the
they don't like Jedis to begin with.
Yeah, like I mean, the entire Mandalorian fight style and like kind of culture was vaguely built off of warring with Jedi. That's what half their weaponry is.
Here's my other thing, Bandu.
Also, in that episode as well, when Sabine kind of storms off, like like she basically goes and like sits on Bendu while she's having like an argument because Bendu just hides as like various inanimate objects like within the scene a lot of the time. And then she like kicks him and wanders off. And then like Bendu like gets up and they do the whole animation scene of him like looking at Bendu, which some people I saw was like maybe like Bendu and Sabine had a conversation, and I'm like, okay. Like, maybe. I fucking doubt it. I think he was just reacting because he kicked her. But, like, it's weird that it was a weird creative decision to randomly have Bendu just like there for that. I don't know. Like,
and it's not like there's dialogue.
No,
it's literally just an animated shot of Bendu kind of coming alive
I saw
for a couple
Morai in that
seconds.
episode as well. But
we're not sure if it's actually Morai.
But weirdly enough, a bunch of other owl models on that planet seem to be like a similar species to whatever the fuck Morai is.
I don't know if
that could just be a normal owl.
All right, so then moving on, there's an episode when
Morai's Ahsoka's little spirit green one white animal that I hope shows up in Ahsoka.
Yeah, no, Morai will.
I hope he's around. Like
Morai's gonna. It kind of has to be.
Like she's around.
We saw Morai flying around in the episode of.
She's very peripheral in Mando, which I don't need her. I don't need her to be.
I don't need it to be like all.
But I want her to just be like hidden in the background all the time, which is basically what was in the Mando. Like Morai was just there, like chilling.
All right. So then the other thing I'll say is there's the scene where they go to the city and they all ride the wolves, and. They all ride the wolves. Chopper gets carried in the wolf's mouth.
This is the one I think I'm most like. I think is the most like evidence wise. So this is after Kanan's death, I believe. This is when they're traveling to the Jedi Temple for like the whole World Between Worlds arc that happens. And they get on the weird Loth wolves that have some weird connection to the Force and are able to they're able to use the World Between Worlds apparently. Well, I mean, they literally are like the gate. They're on the gateway, if you remember, into it. Like they literally circle around. So I guess the idea is those species can like access that plane to travel to other places. I guess.
Right.
But either way, like you see the whole sequence, and there's like almost like a weird like hyperspace tunnel looking thing, and then for like a good like bunch of seconds you just get like weird quaint Kanan and like Ahsoka
and all kinds of quotes,
like mostly just those two, like
a lot of audio clips though, because we hear other characters too.
From what?
Don't we hear other characters?
I'm not talking about Winter in the World Between Worlds. I'm just talking about.
Okay.
I'm talking about
just when they're going through the weeds,
hyperspace like thing, because it's a Kanan and like I think there's one Ahsoka line at the end, which kind of just hints at what's about to happen.
Right.
But basically, like when they get out of that, like and they realize like, oh, we're at the fucking North Pole now, or whatever the hell we are, and Sabine says something. I don't think Ezra says anything. I don't think Hera says anything about the voices. But then, like, Sabine, I never ever caught this before. Sabine says to, like, Zeb, hey, did you hear those voices? And then Zeb's like, I have no idea what just happened. Which, like, I don't know if that, which again, it could just be, like, him giving a comedic response, and maybe he did, and he's like, I'm not going to try to make sense of it. But it also could read as, no, Zeb didn't hear any of those voices, and you only did, which would indicate other things. Like, which would indicate that you have something, and he doesn't.
Once again, my argument is
I think that's the more convincing one.
I'm not saying she's the most powerful force wielder in the history of Jedi. She's just got force. She could have a very low level of force sense of awareness that's only finally coming because now she's more open, and the fact that she she feels this loyalty to Ezra and she's connected to him. And I think how is anyone going to find Ezra if they're not connected to the Force?
I think they're literally doing a Leia thing with her, where it's like they find out at the end. Like, they found it at the end of the trilogy that, like, the one character that was there the other time was also this.
I think like they're doing that a lot,
I think they're doing that.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that this is what they're definitely going to do.
We're not doing this.
I don't know if it's a good idea. I don't know if that's going to be, like, a great storyline. Like, I'm not
dying on this hill.
These characters have never interacted before. Yeah. Like, he has to create a fresh, like, good interaction. And not to mention, this is, like, the grand apprentice of fucking Anakin Skywalker if she is Force sensitive.
Right.
Like, so it's fucking significant. It's next in line of like that, because that's kind of a thing with Star Wars fans, like what master trained what, like that's why people think of cool, like Dooku to Qui-Gon to Obi-Wan. And there's also even things like Mace Windu I guess Yoda you can put into there too. Yoda trained Dooku, so that's a whole thing as well.
Yeah,
and then you could have, there's even like other smaller ones, like Dooku technically trained Kanan's master, and then Kanan's that, so Kanan's technically like in the Dooku, like in the Windu like line essentially.
No, I mean, and that's, I'm not saying like it's true. I'm just saying that it's interesting when you consider there's a lot of little crumbs and stuff, that kind of put it all there. Like,
and
that,
I think the biggest
and
one,
Filoni's pretty good at doing stuff. What do you think's the biggest
and
one?
the trailer sets it up in a way for you to kind of, because again, in the trailer we have her using Ezra's lightsaber, which is fine. Which that doesn't say anything, because again, we know she's trained to use a lightsaber, and Ahsoka could have maybe trained her because of what they might have to encounter to use a lightsaber better.
Right.
But there's also a shot of her with her arm out, which again could just be like a fake out shot, like it just happens to have her arm out in the scene. But it looks like a force push type action. It could be theoretically. Right. You also have the one shot of Shin though, because we only see her fighting the female orange blade.
Right.
And what female? You know what I'm talking about.
Right.
And she says like in a pretty like not scary scene, but in like a pretty like really good delivery actually. Like you have no power, which I think what this could be is like she is like force sensitive, but that she's not quite like at a like level or with her own in turmoil, her own like maybe like feelings for Ezra, like depending on if they go down that route, right. Or just like, or at least like, not even like feelings of like romantic attraction, but just like maybe feelings of guilt, or it's been 10 years I haven't found Ezra yet type
she
shit.
Could also
like
it
could be inner stuff.
It could also be something as simple as she realizes she's force sensitive, and she realizes two very important people in her family like died, you know,
but even Hera
and be like, I don't want any part of this shit.
But even Ahsoka seems to be interacting with Hera before she interacts with Sabine in this show, because like Hera says to her like, you know who could help you with this, and then one of the specific thing that she says about Sabine is she's just as stubborn as ever, and stubborn seems like a very particular like roadblock in terms of like
I think
like
a lot
using
of
and wielding the force.
I think like the scene from the epilogue where she cuts her hair and she says goodbye to the painting and she goes off with Ahsoka is at the end of the episode, and everything is like leading up to that.
Well, I think she has long hair, and that's very weird for Sabine. Sabine never has long hair at any point in the original trilogy, so you could almost argue that like her long hair is like a loss of confidence. That she's like let her, which again, like she's been on Lothal protecting it for all those years or whatever. But like you could almost argue that maybe when Ahsoka like leaves her for whatever reason and stops training her, that kind of loses her confidence of it. She lets like her, you know, because that's why she cuts her hair. She's getting back into it, sort of thing. Which I'm happy they're not doing with the long hair thing.
Well, we don't have any idea also when Ahsoka supposedly trained Sabine. We have no idea.
I assume it
could be after. Maybe they didn't have time to do it during the war.
We don't know much about Ahsoka
it's just
during,
now. Maybe it's just now.
No, because she says she walks away from her. Okay. So I think there's this idea that wherever this is, they've tried to find Ezra maybe before, and it didn't work, or maybe she trained Sabine before and then ended up like not finishing that. But weirdly enough,
last point.
So we have that in the trailer. Yep. We have that force push looking moment, which that by itself could just be taken as like, along with the "you have no power" thing, could just be trying to be like, oh, Sabine doesn't actually force sensitive. She's just using a lightsaber. But that also could be a throw off. It could be like a double bluff. It could be like it could be just trailer shit. But weirdly enough, from Celebration or some other behind the scenes shit, we have a second shot of somebody attempting to use the force on a cup that happens to look like the actress's hand that plays Sabine. And with the fact that we have two shots that seemingly show her, one is for the force push, which again is followed by dialogue saying you have no power, which again could be from anywhere, but you know. And then a secondary shot of her like trying to do something as simple in a non-combat situation of just like simply
working on her skills.
That's what I'm saying. Like maybe the frustration of not being able to do that is like affects everything else. And
maybe
why she
Choppa
walked away.
would just lift it.
Just
to be a jerk.
So I think, given that, I'm not saying it's 100% that this is going to happen, but I'm more inclined to believe that I think there's more that they'll. Again, I don't even know if it would be a good decision or not. It could be really boring.
We don't know. This is just.
But I think that's what they're going to do. I'm going to go out on a limb.
Watched some stuff.
I'm going to go out on a limb and say that I think they're going to go that route.
What percentage? What percentage would you give it?
I think it's like I think it's a 50-50, like realistically that it could be both, but I would say like it's like more likely than not that Lucasfilm are going to make her force sensitive.
So do you think it's more like than 60-40? You're 60-40.
I'm like 60-40. It's a thing.
Okay.
I
think I'm about where you are, maybe slightly higher, just slightly higher because I feel like we need more Jedi, and
I think that's it. Like if that makes sense.
We need our new Luke.
And also, we haven't.
But
seen,
I definitely are we getting Ezra back? Last point.
We're doing a second. They changed this from a limited series to like just a normal series that might have.
Will it be this season or will it be at the end?
I think Ezra will be in this season for like an episode
at the very end,
and then next season we get Ezra back, which that'll be fun.
And
that interacting
so is that
will be
when we
even
get?
better.
And is that when we get Zeb back too, or do you think we'll see Zeb?
I think Zeb and Rex and a couple other people
are going to pop up.
Have been hidden for
I agree with
for
that.
effect.
Yeah.
In the later episodes,
they're gonna rock up together.
I hope.
I think they're.
I could be
rock up.
wrong.
I'm gonna predict like Next Generation style.
Again, we also don't need it to be
Picard,
Mando season 2.
like
the entire
4.
show doesn't have to be just like characters from cartoons showing up every 4
No, we got to have some
episodes,
new stuff too.
but,
So, all right, we got to wrap it up because we got to go see Oppenheimer. Thanks for watching. Following our socials and all that stuff, and we'll be back next week. Take care.